Hello, everyone. Just going to take a moment here just while we have some folks filter in from the waiting room. We appreciate you being here today. We're so excited to have you. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Strike Up Connects webinar, Feeling Stuck, Signs Your Business Needs a Reset and What to Do About It. We're thrilled to have you here with us today. My name is Heather Cannings, and I'm the lead for Strike Up Canada. We're especially excited to celebrate the 2025 edition of BDC Small Business Week as they join us on the Strike Up Connects stage. BDC Small Business Week is a national event organized by the Business Development Bank of Canada, BDC, for the past 45 years. Each year, over 10,000 entrepreneurs come together to learn, network, and celebrate the resilience and innovation of Canadian entrepreneurs. And this year is no different. We're honored to be part of BDC Small Business Week celebrations, highlighting the contributions of Canadian entrepreneurs. So before we jump in, we have a quick BDC Small Business Week video to frame today's conversation.
Canada's economy is changing fast. An economic revolution is underway, and your business is at the heart of it. AI is transforming the way we work. Global trade is shifting. Interprovincial barriers are falling. Thousands of businesses are about to change hands, and new investments are taking shape. This isn't a small shift. It's a real economic revolution. Business as usual, that's no longer an option. The future belongs to those who care. Innovate, who make productivity a priority, who get ready for what's next and take action now. This Small Business Week, we celebrate the entrepreneurs writing the next chapter. You're not following change, you're leading it. Get inspired, network, and go for it. The economic revolution is here. Is your business ready?
All right. So I'm excited to get into this conversation. But before we start, I thought I'd do a quick kind of introduction of what Strike Up is for those who may not be aware of us. So we are an initiative that was founded by Adventure, a not-for-profit organization based out of Cobourg, Ontario, that supports entrepreneurs with strategy and financing. So Strike Up was launched as a one-time digital conference during COVID to connect women entrepreneurs with training, resources, and support virtually. So thanks to the response, we're now headed into our 6th annual digital conference, bringing a full day of keynotes, workshops, panel discussions, live viewing parties, and virtual networking, all free, made possible by partners like BDC. So with over 21,000 women joining us over the past 5 years, we are pleased to announce our return on February 26, 2026. So be sure to follow our channels for speaker news and event updates. So we also host the Strike Up Connects webinar series, a free year-round series with educational content, tools, and resources from our partners. If you've missed any of the sessions, replays are available on our website. So just a quick note before we begin, this webinar is being recorded and you will receive a replay link along with additional resources from BDC after this session. And now, so today we are honored to be joined by Siobhan McManus, the Regional Manager of Inclusive Entrepreneurship for BDC in North. She has worked across a diverse spectrum of industries with businesses of all sizes as a partner to help them access the financing and advice they need to succeed. Supporting BDC's national client diversity and inclusion strategy, Siobhan worked closely with women entrepreneurs to equip them with resources and tools they need to thrive, understanding the unique challenges they face and the incredible strengths they possess. So in this session, you'll learn how to spot signs of stagnation and consider strategic reset for your business. Explore sources of capital and understand where acquisition might fit. So we'll also host a live Q&A after the presentation. So please feel free to submit any questions that you have in the chat at any time, and we will address as many as possible. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Siobhan McManus from BDC.
Hi, Heather. Thank you so much for the kind words and introduction. It's my absolute delight to be here today and join this community. And my ambition is to offer you practical tips so you can identify opportunities within your business. I'm going to share my screen, so please do let me know when you can see it. Just one moment.
Very excited to have you today, Siobhan.
Thank you. Just one moment here.
No problem. And we can see.
You can see, okay. Is that the correct screen?
Okay. Present.
Okay. I'm just going to pivot. Give me one moment here.
No problem. In the meantime, is there anything here that anyone wants to share in the chat that they're excited to learn about today? Where are you joining from? Yeah, let's hear a little bit about what we've got going on from our attendees. And we can see Siobhan.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you all very much for joining me today. Before we go further, I'd like to offer a land acknowledgement to show respect to Indigenous peoples and recognize their enduring presence and resilience. We're all accountable for Indigenous and non-Indigenous relationships, and we're meeting today on the land of the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. We pay our respects to Indigenous peoples across the country and their ancestors. Today, I'm joining you from the traditional unceded territory of the Okanagan-Syilx Nation. I'm privileged to work, live, and play on this beautiful land of lakes, mountains, and forests. I pay my respects to the Indigenous peoples and their ancestors each time I work, live, and play in this beautiful territory. So today, I wanted to share my agenda with you. And we're going to provide a short economic update and share some results from our recent entrepreneur survey in order to set some context for our presentation. But most importantly, we're going to cover signs that your business needs a reset and what to do about it. At BDC, we can help with loans, advice, and resources. We can provide financing for working capital if you're growing and need extra cash. We can help with all sorts of projects such as equipment, real estate, technology purchases, new market developments, or even buying a business or preparing to sell your business. On the advice side, we have experts who can help you with most any business challenge or opportunity. And we can help find operational efficiencies, develop strategic plans that come with a clear, executable action plan that's steeped in Canadian data and best practices that transcend all industries. If your business is affected by tariffs or the uncertainty they create, you may be able to access loans to help you pivot quickly and seize opportunities. We're here to help, so don't hesitate to reach out. We're the only bank that's devoted to entrepreneurs, and this is unique. We work with 107,000 clients across the country, and we're complementary to all other financial institutions because we only offer term debt. We work with 1 in every 12 small to medium-sized enterprises, which is the backbone of the Canadian economy. Note that more than 50% of Canada's GDP is generated by owner-managed businesses with 10 employees or less. So you are the backbone of our economy, and we have a very high client satisfaction rate. I'd like to move on and provide a brief economic update just to set some context with respect to Canada's current economic state. So, at present, we know that uncertainty has reached a new high in Canada in the first half of the year. This chart really indicates how reactive people are to the news coming out of the US. Policy announcements are causing uncertainty. It's likely to cool in the coming months, but that feeling that anything can happen is still very present. However, there are some good news signs. Right now, we've had 3 years of consecutive growth in our economy. Not strong, albeit about 1.2%, but not weak. Key drivers behind this are that we still see consumer spending. It's remained positive for 2 reasons. One, employment markets are positive, and we've had net job creation in both 2023, 2024, and 2025. And this is good news because it means that consumers are still spending. Second, we note that wages continue to increase faster than inflation at 5%. What this means to you is that consumer spending is still active. And fun fact, did you know that the vast majority of our GDP in Canada is actually driven by consumer spending, and that women control the majority of those consumer spending decisions? So, ladies, this is great news. I want to identify some of the challenges that entrepreneurs have identified that they're facing right now. When we ask them, number one is rising costs, products, materials, labor. Things are becoming more expensive. Second, demand is slowing. As I previously talked about, we're still seeing consumer spending, but it's weakened or softened a little bit. And third, we're seeing increased competition. Another spot to pay attention to is the fourth concern for businesses was that qualified labor is a challenge for roughly 21% of entrepreneurs. It's important to note that tariffs were a top business challenge, however, only for 19% of business owners. This demonstrates that tariff uncertainty is impacting the economy unevenly, and it's mostly affecting exporters and businesses in certain industries such as manufacturing. But as we said, it is the uncertainty around tariffs that's creating a difficult context for all entrepreneurs. And we see that throughout the study, but most importantly, I see it with the conversations that I have with entrepreneurs all across our country. The good news is there are some factors that will continue to support growth. Positive consumer spending, as we've touched on. Lower interest rates are also positive. With the Bank of Canada recently lowering its overnight rate, this drives consumer spending, but it also will help activate a big driver in our economy, which is real estate purchases. Finally, the Buy Canada mentality is not a trend. It's here to stay. We've never been more interested in supporting our neighbors and our community. Technology innovations in AI are having rapid advances, specifically in the rise of artificial intelligence, and they're a big trend changing the business landscape. Up until a few years ago, most of us hadn't heard about AI or ChatGPT, but now it's changing our businesses rapidly. We surveyed some entrepreneurs and Canadian small and medium-sized business owners who had used AI in their business said that it helped them be more efficient, improve customer service, and increase sales or make better forecasts. These are all tangible benefits. The challenge we see is that entrepreneurs are not using AI to its full capability. So this is an opportunity, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later on in the presentation. Another big opportunity is business transition. According to our calculations, 142,000 entrepreneurs plan to close, transfer, or sell their business in the next 5 years. This represents 17.4% of all businesses in Canada with less than 500 employees, or 1 in 6 businesses in Canada. This is a major opportunity for those thinking of entering entrepreneurship through acquisition, sellers, businesses who want to grow through acquisition, but it's also a unique opportunity to keep Canadian businesses in Canada. As women entrepreneurs, remember there's lots of paths to grow and thrive, and there's always an opportunity to acquire or buy or vertically integrate to grow. So something to keep very top of mind. Another survey result shows that improving profitability is the #1 priority for entrepreneurs right now. Second only to keeping the customer base, and then followed by cost reduction and finding new clients. Only 1 in 10 entrepreneurs plans to adopt or make greater use of AI. This is a big missed opportunity that we need to take advantage of. Now that we've set the tone, let's move into the real meat and potatoes of the presentation. Reviewing signs that your business needs a reset, but most importantly, what to do about it. So, sign number 1, you have no strategic plan. If you're not making decisions based on a strategic plan, it's sort of like chasing a lot of shiny objects. If you have a strategic backbone, you're going to know why you're making the decisions and be confident in them to de-risk your business. So what can you do? Create a strategic plan that's backed by data. I would even suggest that many entrepreneurs operate their business based on intuition, but intuition is not fact. So ensure that your strategic plan is based on historical data from your business and industry comparables. Think about it. If your plan is just intuition, it's not really a plan, it's a hunch. But a plan backed by data is a strategic plan. The second single most best piece of advice that I could provide to any entrepreneur is to pretend, even if it's not your ambition, that your business is for sale every 3 to 5 years. If you behave this way, you are going to give yourself more options. You will document your processes. You will remove yourself from the business, which I know as an entrepreneur can be really tough, but it will free up space, processes, make you more productive, and give you more options. Regardless as to whether or not you choose to sell, this is a mentality that you should have as an entrepreneur day in and day out running your business. Third, you must prepare your finances. Make sure that you have clean, consistent data so you can make decisions. You want to evaluate 3 to 5 years worth of profit and loss statements, balance sheets, and cash flow reports. Make sure that everything reconciles and it's organized and easily accessible. Finally, you want to prepare your key operational documents. These documents tell you about your ownership structure, compliance, incorporation bylaws, shareholder agreements, all the things about your operation that make it tick. And don't forget to include key contracts and operational agreements. Imagine that if I were to sell mentality. Buyers want assurance that relationships and operations are stable and transferable. And as an entrepreneur, you want that for your business as well. The second sign that you need to pay attention to is you don't know your numbers. I can guarantee that 90% of the entrepreneurs in this room today did not get into business because they wanted to be an accountant. Entrepreneurs have a technical ability, a passion. They find a need in the market and they want to solve a problem. And for women, they want to have impact. But I must tell you, accounting is not a compliance exercise. If you're only visiting your accountant once per year, you're either 6 months too late or 6 months too early to find opportunities or challenges to make strategic decisions for your business and seize opportunities. So, what can you do? Every business should get advice if they don't have that internal capacity. As I suggested, most entrepreneurs, owner-managed businesses, 10 employees or less, you're not going to have all the internal talent that you need in your company, and that's okay. You can resource yourself through subject matter experts and advisors. You want to make sure that you build a dashboard using your financial information so that way you can easily use that to make decisions. Your decisions should be strategic and based on your internal data, but also competitive metrics. You want to make sure that you also have financial flexibility. That means cash on hand to either weather a storm or seize an opportunity. And finally, you need to be able to analyze your historical and current information with confidence to spot trends. An example of this would be using a tool like a cash flow planner. This tracks not just profitability, even very profitable companies can run into cash flow challenges. So understanding when cash comes in and when cash goes out and how much you might need to plug the gap is really critical. This is just an example of a tool that you could use. Another thing that you want to understand is your cash conversion cycle. So essentially, to bring more money into your business, you need to accelerate this. This is really key in a market like right now. It's the length of time and days that it takes for a company to convert its receivables and inventory into cash, right? Sometimes you are hanging on to inventory, then you sell it. Then you have to wait for the customer to pay you. Then there's inventory holding time, and then there's a collection period time. So you really need to understand your cash conversion cycles. In the example here, the cash conversion cycle for this company is 100 days, right? That takes into account inventory or service, cash collection, subtracting the time that it takes to pay your suppliers. 100 days is a long time to wait for cash, and you may need to close the gap. Debt does not have to be a four-letter word. In fact, it's necessary at certain times to grow your business. So remember that you want to have these tools at your fingertips in order to be financially flexible. The third sign, you're not tracking KPIs, key performance indicators. Lots of KPIs are available. And I think what's most important that entrepreneurs must understand is you need to know what you need to be competitive. Secondly, you need to know how you track compared to competitors in your industry, right? But most importantly, you need to understand which KPIs, key performance indicators, you should be tracking in your business. It's different for service-based businesses, product-based businesses. And this is where strategic advisory and sales and marketing and on the financial side can really help you understand how to measure what matters. My fourth sign and tip is that you're not measuring productivity. What does productivity mean? It means how much you can do with the internal resources that your business has, be that human capital, be that assets such as equipment and financial capital. Tracking productivity is really essential so that way you can do more with the same or less. What every business can do, to be more profitable, you need to be more productive. Entrepreneurs we surveyed understood this really, really well. 3/4 of them are taking action to improve their productivity in the face of an economic slowdown. This is important. My point is, if you haven't taken any steps to improve your productivity, your competitors have done this. Make sure you really let that seep in. Adopting new technology is the number one action that entrepreneurs in our study have taken to become more productive. Others are focusing on reinforcing the use of existing technologies. Perhaps you purchased software or a tool a few years ago, but you haven't been using it to its full potential, or you have a project that you put on hold. We see entrepreneurs going back to this and trying to use those assets to their full potential. Automating tasks is another great strategy because it can upskill and reskill your people. So a few things to consider. Adopt new technology, think about what you want to measure and how you can become more productive. I'll also leave you with this. I want you to think about this. 3/4 of entrepreneurs are taking action to improve their productivity in the face of slowdown. If you're not taking action to do this, you are falling behind. My fifth tip is that your processes are not documented. You are the business. As an entrepreneur, I understand your business is your baby. You've grown it, you've watched it thrive, you've taken care of it. But intrinsically, if you are the business, that actually limits your businesses and your potential. So what are some things that you can do? One, what are your current processes? But I want you to think a little bit more about this. Are they the same when every person performs them? What about when management is versus not present? Also, how often are you updating your processes? Is this done regularly? Think of it as a backup for your business. And when you update your processes, are you leveraging tools like AI for continuous improvement? Third, prepare for a successor. Many moons ago, I worked for a company in my early 20s called Lululemon. You may have heard of it. Lululemon at the time, before it became the big retail success that it was, ingrained into us that you must have what's called the fall off the face of the earth strategy. This essentially meant that in everyone's job role, you had a buddy, somebody who could eventually pick up where you left off and keep the lights on in the event that they were sick, unable to work, or that the business had a huge opportunity, so you would have capacity to seize it. So think about, after you, who's next? If you are the business, what happens if you can't run the business? What happens if you're running your business and you've never thought about selling, but you might like to retire one day? Or what about as an opportunity to engage your employees? They might just be empowered, they might want to take on more, and they might just be your buyers. Finally, create a transition roadmap and be strategic. Remember that nugget. Think about your business as if it's for sale every 3 to 5 years. Even if you don't want to sell your business, it will be more productive. It will give you more options. And for those of you who are tied to your desk, you might even be able to take a restful vacation. So, some things that you can apply right away. AI, think about it. It's like giving every employee an intern. There are so many uses. It can help with recruiting, cost cutting, increasing sales. It can be helpful for companies who want to put the time and resources behind it. But use AI at least for its basic functionalities. The best way to think about this, again, you're giving every employee an intern. Think about what you would ask an intern to do to help you. Or at the very least, use it for processes like email drafting, research, documenting processes, and writing job descriptions. If everyone learns to use it and to have a small productivity increase, then the company as a whole can become much more productive. Secondly, well-run businesses are better positioned. I spoke about the wave of business transitions coming over the next 5 years. These with strong management practices will help increase the business value and make succession easier. Well-managed businesses are better positioned to acquire others or to be acquired. What if someone knocked on your door today and asked to buy your business? Would you be ready? Do you want to sell your business? Would you like to have the option? Or would you like to buy another business to grow? The largest opportunities for growth that we see are exploring new markets. As the saying goes, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. With more than half of Canada's GDP being generated by owner-managed businesses with 10 employees or less, the reality is that you're not going to have all the expertise you need within the team, but you don't have to. You can leverage AI. You can reach to your networks or get professional advice to de-risk those big business decisions. The vast majority of entrepreneurs, again, go into business because they have a passion and an opportunity and they want to solve a problem. But you have to accept that you can't know everything. But there's great experts that can help your business grow, upskill you and your staff quickly with a teach you how to fish approach. Finally, I would say really think about strategic acquisitions. We've talked about this a lot during the presentation, and I think it's really, really important to ingrain. And finally, make sure you have financial flexibility. Some tips that I would give you as it relates to accessing capital: borrow before you need the funds. It's counterintuitive, but you'll be prepared. You'll be able to negotiate better terms and conditions. And when you're approaching someone for capital, they want to see that you have a plan and you have the ability to pay them back. As it says, if you're coming in when the house is on fire, it might be harder to access capital. But right now, capital is available and it's a good time to borrow. Secondly, I would suggest that you borrow enough. Oftentimes, women entrepreneurs tend to ask less often. And if they do ask, they ask for less. The impact of this is they don't grow quite as quickly as their peers. And we're moving the needle here. Back in 2018, women-owned businesses represented about 15 to 16% of enterprises in Canada. Now we're getting closer to 20. But the real opportunity for you here is to build your knowledge, networks, and access to capital. Make sure that you have a tight rein on your costs and debt level, but lowballing the cost of a project can leave your business facing a cash crunch at the time when unexpected expenses crop up. So this is not ideal. You want to make sure you have enough money to cover your project any unforeseen contingencies, and make sure you have the working capital and cash available to bring your project to completion. My final tip on accessing capital is don't reduce your cash position too quickly. Lots of business owners want to clean up their debt, reduce their cash as quickly as possible in order to be debt-free. The reality is it's important to reduce debt, but doing so too quickly can actually cost your business. So if you leave yourself short of cash or the money that you need to, it could be actually better spent on projects that have more profitable outcomes or growth outcomes. So it's a good idea to compare your projected return on a project or investment to how much interest you're saving by paying down a loan or a debt faster than required. Oftentimes, your cost of borrowing is going to be much lesser than the rate of return you're going to earn on a project. So if you expect to earn more investing the money in your business, consider accessing more capital. So today we've had the opportunity to cover 5 ways to reset your business: creating your strategic plan, knowing your numbers, right? Tracking those key performance indicators that make sense for your business, understanding productivity and how to measure it, and of course, documenting your processes. At BDC, we're really here to help. We help with advice, loans, and resources. We can help with all sorts of different projects. And I think what I'd like to share as a final presentation point is that we asked business owners in our research if they would still choose the same career as an entrepreneur if they could start all over again. And the spoiler alert, they all would. 92% of entrepreneurs say if they could start all over again, they would do it the same. To conclude, I want to say that I have a lot of confidence in Canadian women entrepreneurs and their ability to build vibrant, growing businesses. They're risk aware, they're excellent return for investors, and women hire women and those with diverse perspective at 2.5 times the rate of their peers. This is important because companies with more diverse perspectives make better decisions. Again, we're seeing the needle move, and now we're getting closer to 1.1 out of every 5 business owners in Canada being women-owned. But there's so much more potential for women entrepreneurs. And at BDC, we want to do our part, along with our partners across the country, to support women, because when they succeed, Canada succeeds. I'll conclude now and take any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. That was a lot to take back to our businesses. And I just have a few questions I want to dig in a little bit deeper. So, how do entrepreneurs know if they're facing a potential pricing problem versus a demand problem?
That's a really excellent question. I think the first thing that you have to understand, and I'll use an example, is are you going after the right customers? And are you costing your products individually? An example I can share is that I worked with an entrepreneur as they grew their business. The business grew significantly, and they started looking at different customer profiles. Their pricing changed because they were going higher volume, smaller margin. They landed a really, really big contract. And what ended up happening was that contract was actually less profitable. Although their sales were going up, their profit margins were shrinking. So it also results if you offer different products or services. Does one product make money and maybe it's your golden goose? Or is there another product that maybe is your gateway, right? People buy your pillow, which you don't make money on, or you don't make a lot of money on, but then they buy your chair because they bought your pillow, or the inverse. I think, an example, like external factors play a significant role in demand too. So risk and interest rate changes can cause projects to kind of stall or be deferred when you're thinking about sales. And overall economic conditions also impact pricing and activity. So pricing is a lever that companies use to be competitive, but pricing should be one of the many items owners use to be competitive, and they need to promote value. If your pricing is not competitive, you have to look for operational improvements, right? Ways to reduce costs. We talked about this: labor, inventory, equipment. Generative AI is great. Market research is great. But principally, how do you know if you're facing a pricing problem versus demand problem? you have to understand your industry. This is where those key performance indicators are so critical. You need to talk to competitors, right? Suppliers. What about other people in the value chain to get a broader understanding of the market and the marketplace activity? If you're getting lots of quotes and they're decreasing, maybe it could be a sign of weakening demand. But if you're getting lots of quotes and volume, maybe there's pricing pressure in the market. So it could be a pricing issue, or maybe competitors are actually sharpening their pencil. So it's balancing supply and demand. It's balancing market conditions. And we want to make sure that you really understand your cost and profit centers, and you have a strong understanding of your numbers in the industry. I hope that helps answer the question a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes sense. So I just wanted to jump into one of the questions we had received from the chat. Was more of a comment and maybe some advice that you might have for Jessica. So she says that tariffs are hurting her business in Manitoba, as her clients have all put a stop to their building projects. So tariffs are indirectly hurting her business because clients don't need engineering because they're on a construction pause. Do you have any kind of advice for Jessica, how she might kind of navigate this time period?
Yeah, absolutely. Jessica, first off, I hear you. This is a really tough point in the economy, and I just want to empathize with you a little bit. Over the past 5 years, entrepreneurs have heard the word pivot more than they've ever wanted to for a myriad of reasons. So maybe what I can do is come back to an economic answer for you. So when we look at construction starts, I know that's really going to impact your business, right, as an engineering firm. So what I might suggest is looking at kind of newer markets or ways to vertically integrate within your clients. For example, many in the construction industry have pivoted from new starts to maybe renovations, exploring new markets in their backyard, exploring additional services with their customers. Perhaps you could look at a strategic acquisition as well, right? That might be a way to sort of de-risk and onboard new customers. Also, from an economic perspective, we have to remember right now that tariffs are challenging, but the uncertainty is the most challenging. So, for example, there are companies in the US that are posting large losses right now. And the US government is encouraging those private companies not to pass those losses on to customers. But as we all know, as entrepreneurs, at some point, even private companies, this is not sustainable for them to not pass those cost increases on. So we've already seen the Fed Reserve lower its rates. And if cost increases eventually from private companies are passed on to customers, which is likely, what that could do is drive inflation in the US. And therefore, we might see a little bit of a reprieve. So we're forecasting, slower growth and to the end of the year in particular right now. Key driver in construction is softwood lumber, right? Pine. The good news about Canada is we have fantastic pine. We have very long fibers. And incidentally, many US companies are probably sitting on some inventory of Canadian pine that they're likely to use up. But even with the lumber tariff, there's a probability that the demand for that long fiber pine could increase even as early as the newer year, because the pine in Canada has these really long fibers. So I hope that helps give you some ideas and a little bit of context behind what you're going through. The other thing I would encourage you to do is build your networks. Networks are so important. All of you here today are in a network. You have folks in different industries, different locales, and diverse perspectives will help you win. So I would encourage you to get out and talk to other entrepreneurs. And if you're not sure how to pivot your business strategically, come and talk to us at BDC. We can offer advice, we can offer capital. We just want to see you succeed.
Amazing. Yeah, we have an incredible network of entrepreneurs here with us today. So that's just one option for you. We did have another kind of question here from Leslie. She said, what about approaching investors? Can this sometimes be easier than going to a bank? And what should you have pulled together for a potential investor?
Leslie, what a great question. I love this question for so many reasons. Um, at the end of the day, raising capital is like a puzzle, and there's no one perfect solution for every entrepreneur. I wouldn't say that it would be easier or harder to gain investment. I would just say it's a different type of way to build your business, right? For investors, they're going to be keenly looking at their desired rate of return in your business, right? So they're putting money in, and kind of key questions that you want to think about is like, how do they get in? How do they get out? When? And how much does it cost? The other part about investment is that you're going to likely be diluting some equity in your company, right? That's not necessarily a bad thing if your investors are giving you the right type of patient capital and if they're adding bench strength to your team. And having a split of some equity investment, some traditional debt, they're all pieces of the puzzle, and it's really going to largely depend on what your strategic plan is. And I think that's what I want to root your decision in. Some information that you're going to want to have prepared is 3 to 5 years of historical financial statements, cash flow statements. You're going to want to have your operations clearly summarized and documented. And I want you to also think about cash flow forecasts and financial forecasts that are steeped in data. And something that those forecasts are a living document, right? You're updating them, you're comparing them. So neither option is bad. It's just different. And ultimately, you have to decide what's strategically right for your business.
Amazing. I think we'll just kind of wrap up with one more question for you, if that's all right. So, where do you suggest that your clients look to find these credible mentors beyond their immediate network?
Ooh, great question. So I think that there are lots of different ways that you can seek out networks. One is look to different types of networks to do different things. So local chambers of commerce, groups like this are excellent. Also think about industry associations, right? Those can be great areas to equip yourself. And there's also lots of women's organizations that you can align with. We know that when women get together, the conversation is a little bit different, and that's a good thing. But what I would encourage you to do is diversify your networks. So talk to people in the same industry, but in different industries, right? Talk to people who are in the same market as you, but reach out to others who are maybe in the same industry in a completely different market. I work on a national team, and I'll use this as a microcosm. We all talk to each other because there's certain things that are going to work really well in one area, and maybe that transfers to the other, or maybe it doesn't. So the more diversity and perspectives that you have is great. Try and balance your networks as well between in-person and virtual, right? The beauty of a Zoom call, we have what, 430 entrepreneurs joining us today? That's incredible. This is a huge network opportunity for you. Another thing that you can do, and I find really effective, is leverage LinkedIn, right? People love to talk about themselves in the business. So if you ever want, you could just send someone that out and say, hey, I'm really curious about your journey. Would you like to connect? Don't be afraid to be bold, right? And remember, there's going to be reciprocity there for that other party. You're both going to be able to help each other. And you never know how a network is going to completely change the trajectory of your business. I was in a supplier diversity conference, and there were two entrepreneurs, and they were growing their businesses, both women. And both women individually in the businesses couldn't bid on this one procurement opportunity, but they met each other and they said, hey, what if we both provided this? And the company loved it, right? So now all of a sudden you have these two women entrepreneurs that are collaborating, and it's opened up so many possibilities for them. So this is the power of networks. Don't be afraid to get out and attend things and go to places that you might not normally turn up to, both online and in person, and engage in discussions like this. They're so helpful.
I think that's incredible advice, and I just want to thank you so much for sharing your insights today, and for everyone here that has participated. We got some really incredible questions. I know we're running close on time, so we will wrap up here. as I want to point out, we do have another Strike Up Connects webinar that you can all join us next week on Wednesday, October 29th. With the presentation, Women, Wealth, and Planning for Your Business. So this is presented by the Scotiabank Women Initiative, and we'll be joined by a Scotia Wealth Portfolio Manager. So every owner needs to plan for what's next. So very similar to this presentation, we can build on this. This session walks through the essentials of exit and succession planning for any business structure, from timing to valuation basics to the choices that protect what you've built. You'll leave with clear steps to start the right conversations and move forward confidently. So as well, mark your calendars for Thursday, February 26, 2026, when Strike Up returns with a full day conference of keynotes, panels, workshops, and plenty of networking. We're joined by thousands of women that day. So sign up for our newsletter to get the latest speaker news, event updates, giveaway announcements, and be one of the first to register on December 1st. So more to come from that. Once again, I want to thank you so much, Siobhan, for joining us today. A huge thank you to all of you for being here and celebrating BDC Small Business Week with us. We look forward to seeing you next week and again in February alongside thousands of women in business at Strike Up 2026. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day.